Cool. We are waiting for a lovely study partner, Ben, who will join us soon, I'm sure. We will wait for him, and he'll let us know where we're holding up. Ben, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Hearing the delay.
You're hearing me in a delay?
Oh, now I can hear you.
All right. Amazing.
I'll bring it up.
Do you have your trusty book with you?
I do.
Okay. I'm excited.
Good. Oh, we already started. I see.
We already. Sorry. You want me to stop it?
No. I'm good. I'm just gonna present it.
Take your time. How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been a nice week. Went a little.
You broke?
Sorry. Oh, what happened with that? No, nothing. It wasn't.
I love that you're like, whatever happened with that? Who even said that even happened? You know, no one knows. There was no witnesses.
It had no sentimental value, so that was good.
I do this thing. It's a little off color, but I guess it's still okay ultimately. If someone's over at the house for Shabbat for a meal, and they break a cup or anything, so I'll be like, it's totally fine. It's not a big deal. It's just my grandmother brought it from the war. It's fine. And then I start slowly singing like Israel's national anthem, like the Tikva, as I'm cleaning up the shards. But it's all in jest. People should feel comfortable. People making a mess in someone's house. In our new house right now, my wife would like to have like a no shoe policy, but I don't know if we're ready to commit to be those kind of people that make people take off their shoes and then you have slippers in the house. I don't know.
Do you have? Is there like a carpet or is it just like a floor?
Well, it's a wooden floor, so it's not like such a big deal. There'll be like a carpet in the living room, but like going up the stairs, what we want to do, we'll see if this happens, is having like this antelope hide. It's not actual antelope hide, but it looks like an antelope hide, like rug runner going up the stairs.
Right.
And it's less about my friends going upstairs. It's going to be more about my son's, second grade friend running up like with his juice box. So on the other hand, like I was talking about with my wife, like we're not retired, so I don't know like why we're deciding that our house needs to look like a museum. But
well, the funny thing is that I never thought I would have like a no shoe policy in my house, but in the house that we're in right now, it's carpeted. Like the living room area is carpeted. So that's kind of half of the living floor downstairs, and so when people come in, they suggest that they go like, "Oh, should I take off my shoes?" Like you don't need to say anything.
What do you say? Do you say yeah, sure?
Yeah, because on the carpet we try not to be with our shoes on. It's pretty nice because we actually, if there's children that come here, if it's my nephews or anything, they they roll on the carpet, I roll on the carpet, so it's kind of nice to not have shoes on the carpet that way. So
that sounds fantastic. I guess the problem is like, A, do you offer like a slipper, and B, like then you have to deal with the fact that like that person suddenly has like two socks that don't match. You didn't wear socks today.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there are people that don't take off their shoes. Like, so we don't like if people stay with their shoes on, we don't like. There's no. Excuse me. I've noticed. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
You stop the conversation. You're like, that was nice, Joe. 1 second before we continue, Derek. I realized that this didn't happen.
Yeah. No, it's just funny that people suggest they see a carpet, they suggest it automatically. So.
Right. So it's also like a new neighborhood. Like, I don't know if that's the first move of getting people to know me. Hi, my name's Chazi. Just take off your shoes, please.
Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, so we'll probably we'll just suck it up and just deal with it. Aside from that, work's going well. Family's doing well?
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Very
I'm
okay.
very glad to hear.
Everything good on your end?
Thank God things are good on my end. Praise the Lord. My partner came back from the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
So just like
Yeah.
today, he was back for a full day, and like I just loved it. Like I heard him yelling at some guy on the phone, and I just like looked at him later. He's like, "Why are you smiling?" I'm like, "I'm just happy that you're dealing with this." But
Yeah.
and another guy that works for us in our office, he also got off of the reserves this week, but
Mm-hmm.
we told him not to come in this week. Just take the week to just spend time with your wife, be home, like just decompress, and come in like the following week.
Yeah.
While I am very eager to have him back, I think it's better to have I don't want a broken soul. So
Mm-hmm.
so he's gonna head back. So hopefully we're moving towards some sort of normalcy. Good news about us retrieving two hostages. You see, that is
Sure.
beautiful, amazing news. Definitely needed news. Obviously
Mm-hmm.
creates like a conflict because this is right after the American government is telling us like not to be in these places, but on the other hand, being in these places and doing these sort of tactics allows us to free said hostages. So we hope for the best.
Yep. For sure.
All right, let's get to it. Chapter 5, number 10
Is the last one we did.
is the last one we did, right? We're talking about
Right.
people. We talked about the person that says what's mine is yours and yours is mine. We spoke about how that's someone that is a fool, not recognizing like the communism aspect of it, b the realization that you can't forfeit other people's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We expanded more of that, of course. We spoke about the one that says that mine is mine and yours is yours, and we explained how we give a background, a little of history of the land of Sdom, Sodom, and how they were very meticulous about measurements, how they were not very into giving charity to other people. They had a fear always from the land of Canaan that was very dependent on rain. What was going to happen if they didn't have rain? They would come to us. By the way, we see that obviously happens when the Israelites leave Canaan and go down to Egypt, right? Both Jacob and all his sons, we have a whole, brouhaha story that comes up from that. But the idea was they're very nervous about that. And that's why we say that it's actually a very, very problematic behavior, because that kind of attitude, which would seem extreme, how are we saying it's like a sodomite trait? That kind of attitude of measuring everything, being very meticulous, not understanding that there's more to than just like these exact quantifications of your wealth, could lead you to have a corrupt ethical system, which it could lead you to eventually becoming a man of Sdom, which obviously was very, 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 very problematic.
Right, which kind of connects to the previous Mishnah that we discussed in the same last week as well. Kind of talking about
that's a great connection.
Leaving when you're carrying your bundles of wheat. You can tell me technically what the term is called, but when you're carrying your bundles of wheat, right? Instead of when things fall from your shoulder, fall from the bundle to the floor, instead of picking them up, you're supposed to leave them for the poor. You're supposed to forget shechecha. But if you are meticulous and you say, I'm going to carry everything and everything is going to get to, everything is mine, then that creates what is discussed in the Mishnah, that creates a non-optimal environment, not only for you but for the whole society, whether that comes through wild beasts or plagues or diseases or whatever, corruption, all those kind of things.
Well, like we said, it puts the balance out of whack, so to speak, right? When I know, right, and then like if I'm not in the position of holy man, then animals no longer under like sort of my jurisdiction. And whatever that means as far as animals, we spoke about the animals. In this case, we spoke about the animals being an imbalance in the world, and you are now exposed to these sort of damages. We also gave an example of these animals could be metaphorical, sort of like Daniel's visions with regards to these different nations, worldly nations that are now could come onto you. And I think it was also a very good connection you made over there, which is right, that kind of ethical rot that we even have within, let's say, the Jewish community in this case, where like they're being negligent, they're not thinking about giving to the poor. And you even gave an interesting example of, and this would relate to the Sodomite sort of thinking of, let's say, institutionalizing or creating a like preferable pauper lot, right? Which is, I have these 4 poor people come from my fence, and I don't want other poor people coming, and I want it to be very just specific people that are going to come to my garden. So even there, we said, like, you shouldn't systemize it so much. Rather, we want it to be open for the poor person to be able to come sort of naturally and recognize that he's in a society where we're always, quote unquote, forgetting things, or we're leaving things or uncut areas, because we are welcoming all. We don't have specific of the poor people that take from my garden need to have blonde hair or blue eyes.
Right. I mean, in some ways, in modern terms, that's why it's not obvious that a welfare state and all those different initiatives are just a net positive. So they can be gamed in certain ways, and so obviously we want to be in a space where we can help everybody, and everybody is empowered to make better choices and have more money to do better things. But how you institutionalize that, how you formalize that, that's the tricky part.
We mentioned, and I think it relates, we spoke about the Chassid, the pious one, or the right, well, yeah, not Tzaddik is the righteous one, the pious one, which says, which mine is yours and yours is yours. Now, we preface it by saying, because you'd be like, well, that sounds great. He's just giving me everything, which is, the pious one knows to not give more than, he doesn't want to put himself in a position where he himself is now hemorrhaging and is required the sustenance and charity of the people around him. And that would also make sense towards a welfare state, right? Like, we want to be giving, but are we going to be giving so much that we're actually damaging our own institutions or what's undergirding these things? So that obviously be a problem. And second of all, there's there's the delicate balance of giving of yourself and recognizing from the personal realm and the public realm, and what that means to be able to give from yourself while not losing your inner self in a certain aspect. And we spoke about how the wicked man obviously takes advantage of this as well. Let's, I would say, move on to the next. Okay. All right. Arba midot bedeot, נוח לכעוס ונוח לרצות. יצא שדו בשכרו. קשה לכעוס וקשה לרצות, יצא שכרו בהפסדו. קשה לכעוס ונוח לרצות, חסיד. נוח לכעוס וקשה לרצות, רשע. And in English, there are 4 types of temperaments. One who is easily angered and easily appeased. His virtue cancels his flaw. His virtue cancels his flaw. Yatzaf sedo bescharo. Is that Yatzaf sedo? It's interesting. I remember reading this in a different version. Can you see what your book writes?
They're both gonna be Chabad, but so it might not be different. It says Charo befsedo, and his gain outweighs his loss. So it is different.
But in the first version you have right here, it says Yatsa hefsedo b'scharo, not Yatsa scharo b'hefsedo.
Yatsa, in Hebrew, Yatsa hefsedo b'scharo.
Interesting. Could you mind giving me a second? I want to check this out for a second in Sfaria.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is because the way I remember learning it is
it does say in the English version, and there's a footnote here where it says specifically about this is gain outweighs his loss. It says this is also the version of Midrash David Magen Avot, Lechem Shamayim, Ariona Bartanura. Others have it, his loss outweighs his gain.
Yeah. Okay. That's how I remember it. Okay. Interesting. I'm just checking like another thing over here. Because yatsa, and this one is yatsa schero behefsado. Yeah. And the other one I'm looking at over here also has that. Okay. Interesting. I'll be interested to see what your comment is because I know it differently. But either way, one who's easily angered and easily appeased, his virtue cancels his flaw. I have it as his flaw cancels his virtue. One, that's how I remember learning it. One whom is difficult to anger and difficult to appease, his flaw cancels his virtue. And I have it, I believe, in the reverse version of that. His right. One whom it is difficult to anger and easily appease is a chassid. One who's easily angered and is difficult to appease is wicked. Okay, so let's get cracking. So first off, arba midot bedot. There are 4 types of temperaments, which is it's interesting because like we're talking about over here about in a certain sense where they're giving us like sort of midot. It says over here types of temperaments, but I'm saying midot are temperaments. Deot are sort of like opinions in a certain sense. Right. And those two aren't necessarily the same because temperaments are something that are emotional, and opinions, while could be affected by emotions, are supposed to be something that's more cerebral in a certain sense.
Right. So more intellectual in terms, yeah.
But here we're combining both of them, which we're saying arba midot bedeot, right? We're saying we have really, I would say it's like 4 temperaments, 4 opinions of temperaments in a certain sense. And off the bat, I mean, it's hinting over here, which I'm sure we'll see like later on, which is the Tana's trying to let us know that we're going to be talking about someone's anger over here, but we shouldn't be confused and think that ultimately our anger, our emotions are what fully consume us and rule the day. Rather, we could use, and we spoke about this earlier about like praying, how the brain is on top of the heart. And there's a sense where generally speaking, not when we're bowing down, of course, but generally speaking, we want to, and we could control our anger through the proper mindset.
Right.
In a certain sense. But we'll see how that's broken out, how that's broken down in these examples. So we said about the noach lirtzot, the noach lichos v'noach liratzot, right? So he's easily angered and easily appeased. So this is a person that I'm sure maybe you have a neighbor like this, but someone that is everything triggers them. Okay, it's a bad day. Why is your green so long? Why are you using that car? Everything is constantly upsetting them, and these are interesting kind of people, which makes it very, very difficult to live also with these kind of people, because you can never predict when exactly they're going to get angry. On the other hand, obviously, it's very nice that they could calm down quickly and they apologize fairly quickly, it's seeming like. But this is like a characteristic of a child, right? He has a very hard time controlling his emotions. And in a sense, also, because he's so quick to appease himself or appease or forgive, it also just looks like very foolish of the people around him, right? You're just seeing someone getting super angry. Exactly. Someone not stable. And then a few minutes, suddenly he's relaxed. And also the people, it's sort of after you had a temper tantrum and then someone says like, okay, what happened? Everyone gathered around you and you said like, oh, I just didn't like the color. You're like, that's what you got heated over. Just like this was like the wrong, episode that you wanted to watch or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to explain it to you the way I remember learning it, but you'll tell me what it says in your notes. But then it says, Yatzas chero behefsedo, which means his flaw cancels out his virtue. And in a sense, you would say that there's a virtue over here, which is he is quick to appease, right? And we should get credit because, he's calming down his anger very, very quickly. On the other hand, what I understand is the Mishnah is telling us over here that because he lost his anger so quickly, this outweighs the benefit of the fact that he calmed himself quickly. And the reason this outweighs the benefit of why he calmed himself quickly is because, A, you're living in a life where your days are full of stress and filled of anger. It's just not a positive place to be constantly. You're not thinking about things that are funny. You're not thinking of things that are beautiful. You're just sitting over there being like a grump, basically, because everything is triggering you. But more specifically, it's great that now you're all good. You yelled at everyone for the last 30 minutes. You don't realize that you insulted people, you humiliated people, you yelled at people, and now you're coming and be like, all right, everything's all good. What about all these other people? Like, how do you know they're going to like even want to forgive you right now? Like after you acted the way you're acting all the time. So you're putting yourself in like a very, very bad position. And like you don't want to be in a place where you're being seen, like we said, as someone that is like unhinged. And in a certain sense, like a physical harm that could cause someone, like that can heal. But in one of my outbursts, I called out your mother, I called out your sister, I laughed, like I did all those crazy stuff. Then I come to you and I'm like, listen, Ben, like, you know me, I'm always losing it, but like, of course you could borrow my vacuum cleaner and everything's fine. Like, it's not all fine, Chazi, because like you just opened up like major wounds right now for me, emotional wounds, and I'm not really in the mood right now to, for this appeasement of yours, so to speak. So in this sense, the negative outweighs the benefit. But I'm interested to see what your commentary says. Because I'm trying to think like what the reverse would be. Well, the reverse would be that because he appeases himself quickly, that's why it's the fact that he's quick to be calm, that outweighs the fact that he was quick to be angered. But I like the other translation more.
It actually doesn't. I don't see like in the commentaries. Well,
I'm bringing a book. 1 second.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll just mention, and I can mention it again. But what it says here is one that's easily angered and easily appeased. Such a person is less stressful to those around him, since they know that his anger will soon pass.
So they're saying because his friends around him are going to be very accommodating because they know that he's not. I mean, it's actually sort of, I guess, like the opposite of what I'm saying in this case. He's saying that they're going to be more understanding.
This is Rabbi Matityahu Hayetzari.
Yud Aleph. I said, what's the one I said? I said Yatsa Scharo Be'efsedo. And here it's saying Yatsa Hefsedo. And okay, in this book, it says Yatsa Hefsedo Be'scharo. And משהו נפסד בזה שהוא נוח לכעוס, יוצא ונשקל לעומת שכרו, אשר בסופו של דבר הוא גומר ברצון, אבל יציע יותר. Okay, so here it says the opposite, that because at the end he calms himself down, it shows that he's like stable at the end of the day.
Okay.
But here I'm reading, I'm translating, direct translating from Hebrew to English. This version, in some versions it's the opposite. Right. It just says there's two different versions.
Yeah.
All right. The mysteries of the Torah. Okay.
Especially for this first one, it's hard to tell whether his gain outweighs his loss or his loss outweighs his gain. Because I mean, another commentary here says that you can view it as, this is somebody that's very sensitive to his own feelings. That's why he's quick to be angered.
Mm-hmm.
So he flares up, but he's also sensitive to the feelings of others. So that's why he says, okay, let me calm down so I don't need to stress people out. But then again, I don't know.
I guess, but the question would be like, what the version I mentioned makes more sense is because like living in that kind of mindset and like we said, and causing that kind of damage to other people, like how is that not like causing more damage than the fact that like, how many times can you cry wolf and say like, I yell for 10 minutes and then I calm down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if there's if we can put like a hierarchy here from all of these four, because we have two that are oh no, it's like a verse, the second one. Interesting.
Okay, so let's go to the second one, and then we'll see as we read them. We'll see what's what. I mean, maybe we'll find some sort of clarification. with regards to both of these opinions. Kashe lichos v'kashe lirtzot. Right, so this is a different version right now. One who's difficult to anger and difficult to appease. His flaws cancels out the virtue, or the other way around, right? So this person has built, like we said before, we had like a child's character, so to speak. Here we have like a mature, strong character, right? Which he rarely gets angry, which actually would make him very easy to live with. However, once he gets angered, like it's very difficult to appease him at this point, and his anger is lasting much longer. But here again, he maintains like a certain amount of respect because how infrequent, seemingly, these rage outbursts are. And in the flip version, it would be if we said the negative outweighs the positive. Here, I would say it's the opposite. The positive outweighs the negative, because at the end, while there's a danger of like lotitor, right, which is not hating your brother in your heart, basically, of sitting down and not appeasing and sitting down and violating that commandment. So obviously one should be careful from that. But but at the end of the day, there's a sense that it's someone that is eventually going to it's happening so infrequently that then really, generally speaking, it's a virtue that he's being calm all the time. Obviously, it is an unbecoming trait to not forgive, right? So we want someone to understand that he must forgive, and at the very least recognize that if he himself is not willing to forgive, why would God want to forgive him as well, right? Like at the end of the day, we're training this kind of relationship where God wants to see us, ma ni rachum afatarachum, right? What, just like I'm merciful, you should be merciful. We say like yodei in Greek, which is like mimicking God in a certain sense. You would have like bechol drachecha de'ehu. So here too, like we know that God is merciful, and God eventually also finds in his good graces to forgive us. Even the person over here should try to remind himself that he should still try to forgive the other.
Yeah, so I guess there's a question here about what's more destructive, or what has a more negative effect. Is it the person that is frequently angered but only for short bursts, or the one that is infrequently angered, who is rarely angered, but when he does, like the whole night is ruined, like there's no way you can get him out of it?
Right. So the question is, so I would say, from my understanding, would be that that the bottom line is that the person that gets frustrated slowly, that's the preferable. That's preferable to the hothead, so to speak, right? Because yes, being hard to please has its significant drawbacks, like we just said earlier. But the fact that he's slow to anger ultimately is preferable.
Yeah.
I can't, again, like that's why I can't imagine in the flip version saying that ultimately it's more preferable that you forgive quickly. Well, I guess they're going to say yes, you got angry, but you forgive quickly, and we're looking at the end result at the end of the day. But I would say, what is it like the other 364 days a year, right? Like that's where you really want to be sort of having a relationship which is more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have these two other versions, these two other characters over here, which is kashe lichos v'noach lirtzot chasid. One who's difficult to anger or slow to anger and is easily appeased is a chasid, right? A pious one, we said. And on the other side, we have noach lichos v'kashe lirtzot. One who's easily angered and difficult to appease is wicked, which would seem sort of obvious. But here too, it's interesting, which is we're sort of naming someone a chassid over here based on how he acts. Not that someone necessarily is a chassid every day of his life. Rather, that acting in this manner is a trait of a chassid, right? Someone that knows how to control his anger in such a way that's a chassid attribute. I would just mention over here, and you'll add any if you see in your book, but just with regards to anger in general, there's famously the Rambam, who always believes in the middle of the road, derech hazahav, the golden path, which is trying to create a balance, for example, which is like, you give charity, but not an insane amount. So you don't lose yourself. You could be joking, but not too much. So when it comes to anger, he says, take the extreme, run away from it all the way to the other side. Like, don't try to be in this middle place, but rather always try to be on as much as you can to be as calm as you can. Ramban also believes in this, but his take is a little different. He says, always speak to everyone around you in very gentle words, and that will constantly remind you to being mindful of this gentle and relaxed and calm attitude, and then you won't get into these places where like you are hard to anger, so to speak. Also, notice that we didn't say the Chassid doesn't get angry. Right? It didn't say lo ko'es v'noach l'ritzot. Rather, it's hard to get anger. That doesn't mean there is a place to be angry, of course, right?
Yeah.
And there's because you could have asked like, why angry at all? Why just no anger? But like every person at the end of the day, we're humans. We have our emotions. At sometimes they rise up if someone's doing something. Right? If someone's attacking me right now, we're not telling the Chassid, no, try to be understandable. Don't get angry. You obviously are allowed to express yourself. The merit though of the Chassid lies in like what triggers the Chassid and how he gets angry. So what is it that bothers you? And you'd be like, it's not the wrong episode. It's not that you bumped my car. It's not all those stuff. It's not the traffic on the highway. And what bothers me is the fact that the three Ivy League university professors couldn't condemn anti-Semitism, right? So that made me angry. However, how did I react? Did I now go downstairs and start smashing my car into people saying Jews are right? Or did I write a letter to my congressman and say, like, you should talk to them? Either way, the idea would be the one that handles it and triggers. The triggers make sense and the response makes sense as well. This person would be the Chassid. And by the way, this, of course, correlates to what we said earlier. This is someone who is very aware and in tune with his own inner world. And that's why he knows what triggers him and he knows how to react. And that correlates to what we said earlier about the guy that is willing to give from himself because he is the Zen master, right? He is aware already of how he reacts, how he interacts, what's going to bother him, what's going to stress him out, right? So you could assume someone that's giving a lot of himself is not going to be someone that's quick to anger.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was about to also make the connection with the previous mission, like you did with like giving of yourself, because in the commentary here, the theme is sensitivity and thinking about it in terms of, am I someone that's sensitive to my own feelings? So meaning, and do things anger me very quickly? And am I sensitive to other people? Meaning that I try to make sure that they feel comfortable, or that I don't harm them. So there's something here about how the pious way, the Chassid, is someone that is a little less sensitive about himself and more sensitive towards others. So giving of others. So again, like kind of the theme of the giving of yourself to others is continues here as well.
Yeah, right. Not taking yourself too seriously. That doesn't mean you're looking at yourself as a clown, but recognizing like who you are. And this all goes back to us saying like the modani in the morning, right? The true recognition of who you are, who you're standing in front of, right? How and once you do that, once you're in proper orientation, someone insulting you is not necessarily going to throw you off. You obviously feel like a lot more confident with your position to get insulted because someone called you out.
Yeah.
Right? So the wicked man is quick to anger, slow to appeasement. We call him the wicked one, right? So also I've learned that here the slow to appeasement is also by others, right? So people are coming to him and saying, look, hey, here we go. Ben got very, very angry, but you know what, Ben, you were right. We want to hear you out. I don't want you to get so upset. So please explain to me again your position. And at that point, you're still saying, no, I'm not interested. You upset me. I'm not explaining to you anymore. If you didn't want, you should have listened when you should have listened. And again, this is sort of like a compounding anger that takes over, that makes it very, very difficult to sort of lead with this kind of person. The Chassid is not looking to hold a grudge or seek vengeance against you because you didn't listen to his opinion. And unfortunately, while it sounds comical, we all know people like this that like got very offended or got very upset. And because of that, decided to act in like this or act in this childish behavior in a certain sense, where like I'm going to show them in a certain sense. And just in general, a person that is accustomed to be angry, right? So we're saying he's quick to be angry and he's slow to appeasement. So generally he's angry. This is a guy that just shows like lack of self-control. And this too is someone that is going to very quickly lead himself into a place of doing wicked acts or forbidden acts with regards to the halacha, right? Because he is not showing proper control. I'm getting angry. I can't forgive anyone. Right. So this is sort of like we said about the sodomite ethics. This is a slippery slope, which you end up being in this place. If we mention the Rambam and Ramban, we should, of course, Ramban being Maimonides, Ramban being Nachmanides, we should, of course, mention the Zohar, even though I know that in Jacob's Discord server right now, there's some questions. Is the Zohar real? What is this? But to those of us who believe in these holy, sweet as honey Torah words, the Zohar tells us whoever becomes angry or gets controlled by anger is considered as if someone that did idol worship. We've mentioned this in the past before. It's because it's a complete loss of restraint and loss of logic. So you no longer have the logic telling you what to do. You're fully controlled by emotions, and that in that certain sense, you have lost your position of knowing before whom you stand, and you are now worshiping an idol. Or in a different sense, you could just say the fact that, like, this anger becomes a aggregor of something that now is completely taking over me. This anger could be shared by different people. This is very much Jonathan Pajot, Jordan Peterson conversation about how they see anger. So you could also look at it in that way, that then it becomes an idol in that sense.
Right. And also to lower in the metaphysical realm, it could also be idol worship in terms of arrogance and assuming that you are the highest thing within whatever metaphysics you.
Right. So I'm saying that would be losing your orientation and not knowing from who you stand, right? Like, because all you see is just yourself at that point.
Yeah. So you don't see others, and you don't see the divine in others, right? Because
Correct.
You are the only thing that shines forth.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And not wanting to hear them when they come and try to appease you, not only appease you, but rather they're agreeing with you, would be another space where, like, you're not acting rationally and you're stuck in your ways in a certain sense. You're stuck in this idol worship trap.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely have time for another one. Number Yud Bet. Arba midot be. No, not that one. Is that
that's
one?
That's the next
one. Arba midot בתלמידים. מהר לשמוע ומהר לאבד, יצא שכרו בהפסדו. קשה לשמוע וקשה לאבד, יצא הפסדו בשכרו. מהר. One second. Do I know the opposite version? No, it's Aschar.
Yeah, there is enough in the commentary here. It's also
okay.
Opposite. Yeah.
קשה לשמוע וקשה לאבד, יצא הפסדו בשכרו. מהר לשמוע וקשה לאבד, זה חלק טוב. קשה לשמוע ומהר לאבד, זה חלק רע. There are 4 types of students.
This is kind of like it reminds me of like the Tefillin Rabbi Tan and Tefillin
Rabbeinu Tam Rashi.
Rabbeinu Tam, yeah, because it's like right. I don't know, I forget exactly, but one is like it should be like this or it should be like this or
yes, correct. Well, there's vertical and there's horizontal, and then there is a sequence of the different parchments that you have inside. Right. In a certain sense, I'm sure we spoke about this in the past, but not to get too deep into this, there are the Zohar, for example, will say that the fact that you have this separation between Rashi, the Rashi version of putting on phylacteries and the Rabbeinu Tam version of putting on phylacteries, and their sequences both reference the serpent and the snake that were on the top of the crown of the Pharaoh, each representing, I think it's Bina and Malchut, I believe, each one representing a different sequence. And that's why, like, really both of them are true once they're unified together. But, and in the Pharaoh's crown, when he would have both, it shows that he's king of Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt, like sort of by the Delta. And that's here too. It shows that, like, you're fully crowning God, but for other classes.
Yeah. This is the late. That's the late night class. I feel like,
That's a late night class, right?
or very early morning at least.
I mean, that's where the word tatfot come from, according to some understanding, which is tatfot, which is like this Egyptian thing. Okay, and let's get to it. There are 4 types of student or students. One who is quick to understand and quick to forget. His flaw cancels his virtue. One who is slow to understand and slow to forget. His virtue cancels his flaw. One who is quick to understand and slow to forget. He is in a good portion. One who is slow to understand and quick to forget. He is in a bad, portion. First off, what's interesting to notice right off the bat when you're reading this in English, if previously we ended with wicked and pious and wicked, and the last two, here we're not being told wicked and we're not being told bad, and this is because at the ultimate, we're not talking about whether or not do you do good deeds or are you a good person. This is to do with what are your inherent intellectual capabilities, right? And if they're not great, then it's in a bad portion, but it doesn't mean that you are a bad person. It just means that you are less fortunate, and it doesn't mean also you can't work on that, of course. And the same thing for the one that's good. We're not calling him pious necessarily. We're just saying like, way to go, you're talented, right? So because the righteousness of someone is determined by it's like one's yirat shamayim, right? One's like awe of heaven or fear of heaven, and not his inherent skills, rather than that's like his character traits. Okay, so let's move on. Maher lishma umaher la'abed yatsa schero be'efsado. So someone that's quick to hear and quick to lose, and we're saying that he ended up losing ultimately, even though what he gained was initially the fact that he heard things quickly, right? So it's great that you have an ability to grasp like a lot of these concepts very quickly, but ultimately you're going to forget everything, and worse, you're going to end up and this goes back to what we said maybe 2 weeks ago about not knowing when to be quiet in the conversation or coming out with things that you're not sure are true, right? So you heard a few interesting things in this class. You were quick to catch it. It made sense during class. By the time you are doing your live stream tomorrow, you're bumbling nonsense. You're saying like, I think he said this. I think he did that. You're completely misquoting him. You actually said the exact opposite of what he said, and people are listening to you. So like this is even worse. So the person that easy in is easy out. Obviously, this is not someone that could carry much weight, right? And this vessel, if you're looking at it as a vessel, I'm pouring water in quickly, but it's all running out, right? So I'm not going to put out any fire with this kind of vessel.
Right. So this kind of person should also plan to, if this is the way, if you see that I catch things quickly, but maybe on a surface level, and then I tend to forget things. Maybe for this particular person, it's really important to have to note whatever important things you heard so that you don't lose them. So when you lose them, you've put them somewhere so you can always kind of recall them.
This is a little different, but I think the example still stands. And I'm guessing this is the case in the States, but in Israel, if you have some sort of dyslexia or ADD or ADHD, the schools, assuming that it's like that you have the proper, let's say, paperwork, accommodate in a certain sense, right? Which is, I know that you could understand quickly what's going on, but I understand that being in this classroom makes you lose focus and you forget it. Or I know you remember it, but once you have to write it down, you forget. So you're gonna take the test verbally, right? Obviously, we always have to see how much of society are we accommodating for someone. We don't want to make someone weak once he walks out there and sees the world is not going to accommodate him at that level. On the flip side, we obviously want the experience to be a good experience and someone to actually be able to learn and not run out feeling. And by the way, also for the teacher could be thinking, this kid's fantastic. Like during class, he's like answering questions, but like I'm investing so much time in this kid, and every day he like has no idea what's actually flying because it went through here, out throughout the other. Right. Okay. Then we say kashe lishmoa v'kashe la'abed yatsa hefsedo b'scharo. someone that has a hard time comprehending, but ultimately once it's in there, right? So this obviously his comprehension in this case is poor, but his memory or deep understanding is obviously blessed in this sense, and that's why the initial time that was lost is still proven worthwhile, right? Because ultimately I could if I invest properly into the student, he could end up being very, very successful.
Right. So, but
it wouldn't be getting upset, like, why is this kid not understanding? Rather recognize that, like, I need to either explain it to him in another way, or he needs a little more homework. But this is someone that then for the day of the test, he's getting the A. He's prepared. He's ready. We just have to make sure, Mrs. Cohen, that your son has enough time to actually go over the notes. So maybe for this year, he shouldn't be doing jujitsu because the extra time is needed to focus on the notes from class. And I know it's annoying that he has to do that second round of notes, but once it's in your son's head, it's like a steel trap.
Right. So it's really different ways. I mean, it tells us like these are different aptitudes, I think is the right word, of people. Yep. And how they get things and how they retain them. And for those different aptitudes, there might be different tactics that we want to employ when it comes to how they're inputting things. So we might need to spend more time. The teacher, the one that inputs the information, needs to spend more time on how to do that in a creative way, slower, more intentionally. And then for some people, like the first one, the child or the parent of the child need to, or the teacher, doesn't have to be a child. So the student needs to pay more attention or spend more time on how to make sure that he synthesizes or outputs the information more intentionally, more deliberately, either like right after the class or anything like that.
I'll just reiterate what you're saying, but I agree completely that, which is ultimately, this is like a note. This is for student and teacher alike, but teachers should take note of this and recognize that, not all their students are obviously equal, like you were saying, and like it's essential not to ignore these differences between the students, right? And when possible, obviously it's a lot of strain on some school systems, but if you could have an individualized approach which understands each student specifically and their capabilities, what their limitations are, you could advance each student in his own way. This obviously relates to the famous saying, "Chanochet hanar lefi darko," right? Which is educate the child according to their own specific way, more or less. And we learn this from the story. The sages ask, one second, we have these two kids that Isaac has, Jacob and Esau. Well, how is one of them like the golden sash A student boy, and the other one is like the bad news bears? And the attitude was, because what we're told is that they tried to educate both of their sons the same way. In reality, it could have been that Esau needed a little more cuddling and Jacob needed a little more tough love, and you would have resulted in a completely different child. Maybe we would have saved ourselves a tremendous amount of stress over the last like close to 3,000 years if we just educated them properly. So we know that we, of course, as technology advances, it could be that you're going to be in a classroom in the future where every kid is getting a tailored, like the teacher is speaking, but my Meta glasses or Meta earpiece is translating it to me, curated for me, right? So it could be that my son needs to hear it in joke form. So great, if that's what's necessary, you're going to hear it in joke form, or you're going to hear it using characters from Harry Potter, and that's how you're going to remember it. Like whatever it is, and it won't require a strain from the teacher to talk to each one of the 20 students. Rather, they just click the app, and each one gets his curated translation based on how they need to hear this information. This, of course, if you have such technology, opens up many doors for assuming the best in people, understanding that when someone, for example, I'm saying something to you and I sound very excited, your translator would know to say, like, drop the volume down by 10%, because like the way you're going to perceive it is like that he's being very aggressive, and he doesn't mean so at all. So who knows? I'm not selling this technology. If anyone's like, wait, this sounds interesting.
There's a prototype ready. Yeah.
Right. מהר לשמוע וקשה לאבד, זה חלק טוב, right? So someone understands quickly and has a hard time losing it. So here, like I said, the fact that they're saying it's a good portion is really stressing the fact that they're saying don't pride yourself on your own wisdom in a certain sense, right? Like this is a good portion. You're not considered wise right now. And this is a gift from God that you ultimately have, and it's nothing more. And it's amazing that that you have this, but we don't need to give you like an additional honorary title that because you're smart.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was about to say that's exactly the commentary here of trying to prevent arrogance from the good student that thinks, oh, I'm doing this like I'm amazing. Like I get everything. I don't need to write any notes. But this is not something that is, to distance him from, and I've heard this before, of like your effort versus what you were given. Obviously, your effort is very important, but making sure that you don't take that for as something that you are wholly responsible for. The results is something that can distance you from arrogance.
Yes, correct. The results can, and also many times if you assume you hear it all and you know it all, then very quickly you could get lost in your own hubris, right? And at that point, if you become chacham enough, if you become wise enough, then you're being told, "Be chachamim hizaru b'divrachem," right? Be careful what you say because you might be misconstrued, and that's assuming smart people are listening to you as well. Like at some point you have to recognize. Once you're in this good portion, it just comes with a lot of responsibility, basically. קשה לשמוע ומהר לאבד, זה חלק רע. One who is slow to understand and quick to forget, he is in the bad portion, right? So obviously, this is a student whose understanding is weak, and he obviously forgets very quickly. Like I would just mention over here again, we're not judging the person by their abilities over here, but we're judging them based on their character traits. So here too, like it's totally okay, little Timmy, that you're having a hard time remembering. The question is, how are you going to take this information about yourself? Are you going to change your schedule? Are you going to work a little harder? Are you going to stay after hours? So we have to take this very, very, very seriously. And of course, like we mentioned, there's also the fact that you need to sort of pair this alongside the proper teacher, right? Like you could try the best that you want, but like if your teacher doesn't understand this and he either sees you as the kid that knows nothing, then obviously he's not gonna invest in you. But if you could show him that you obviously want to and you're willing to put in the effort, you could find a different position, and you could slowly maybe become from the boy that has a hard time hearing and loses it quickly. You could turn to the boy that has a hard time understanding but manages to maintain it, and maybe you'll be able to then even move to the place where I can hear it well and I can maintain it well.
Yeah.
Any notes in your magical book?
No, not beyond the things that you said. There's a nice little
story,
homiletic interpretation.
Talk to me.
So this is from the Notzer Chesed.
Yep.
He offers this interpretation. The Mishnah refers to hearing and retaining the heavenly call. Return, O wayward children.
Shuvu banim shavavim.
So some hear it and are immediately inspired to repent, but they are also quick to forget. Their inspiration is short-lived, but their advantage is therefore outweighed by their disadvantage. So they have some kind of inspiration. Some only hear the heavenly call with great difficulty. But once they do, once they are inspired, the inspiration remains with them and is translated into deed. Their advantage, therefore, outweighs their disadvantage. Some are quick to hear the call and slow to forget it. This is the good portion. Some are slow to hear it, and when they finally do, they quickly forget it. This is the bad portion.
I like that explanation, which is like, less literal and more of a meta understanding of what sort of hearing the echoing call. They say God has been saying um, Ayeka for a very long
Mhm.
time, since the beginning, right? But only, and obviously, Ayeka means "where are you?" And famously, Adam doesn't respond, "Hineni, here I am." The first person to take God up on the call is Abraham. The sense was that that is always in the air. We're all being invited to hear God say, "Where are you?" Just
Mhm.
we're a little too busy to recognize and say, like, I'm right here. I'm here. See myself, ground myself, see myself for who I really am. And going back to the modernity, only once I do that proper internal introspection can I then recognize who I am, humble myself, and then accept and see God above me and hear that voice of Hineni.
Hineni.
Um, uh, in a certain sense, also, that's like all. Again, this is just, and I'm hinting onto this because I don't want to get into this drama. But there was a person on Jacob's Discord who was very adamant about us talking about, or at the very least, that the Orthodox Jews in the stream accept the fact that reincarnation is like a must, believe sentiment in Judaism. And while, of course, it's something that's discussed often, there is an example where this is hinted to. There's a famous midrash where um, uh, God is showing Adam the generations to come. And in a certain sense, that would be like, your soul sort of being aware of, this is beyond time and space, right? So you can imagine like all time is happening at once in a certain sense. So you are aware of all these things. And the soul of Adam, or Adam says, this person, King David, is not going to live a long life. I want to give 70 years of my soul, of myself, to Adam. And he has 900 years, and he takes off 70 years, and he gives it to King David. And in a certain sense, there are also those that say that David, the fact that he built the temple, well, his son built the temple, but like got to a place in Israel where people recognize God's name in a religious structure, that was, in a certain sense, a version of the coming of the Messiah, right? That was like a win, basically, from Adam all the way till David. That was like a mission complete in a certain sense. Obviously, the mission has expanded and gone more than that, but there's a sense where, like, at that point, we got what we wanted. And just to end on that note of David, on David's death. So David was nervous in a certain sense, also because he knows he has like this gifted life. Tells God, like, when am I going to die? And God says, like, there's like a back and forth, but ultimately he gets an answer that is going to be like on a Shabbat, on a Saturday.
Right.
So David just studies all Saturday. He just learns Torah all, and then the angel of death says, like, I can't get to him right now. He like found the loophole. He's always studying, and there's no opening time where I could attack. There's a separate Gemara talking about when the opening time is. It has to do with the chickens, when the rooster's neck gets red. It's a side story.
Right, Balak too. Yeah, right.
Exactly. With Bilam, very, very good. Very
Bilam,
good.
yeah.
Yes, right, correct. That's when they're trying to find the rega, the moment when the time to curse, when it's time to curse the Israelites. Either way, David is studying all day. So the Satan, he transforms himself into a gust of wind that rattles the trees in the outside the study hall. King David stops for a second and says, "What was that? I'll go look outside." He trips, falls, and dies. And because it's on a Sabbath, is it the birds? I can't remember if it's birds. I think it's birds or the trees, but I'm going to go with birds. They cover him up and create shade on David, King David, so his body won't get destroyed by the heat. And then at the Saturday night, obviously they could bury him as well. But the sense was that his soul had to be plucked because he was adamant on staying. All right, I think we will end here, and we will continue next week. You were saying that you like these.